Welcome to Whose Story Is It? Where extraordinary lessons are hidden within everyday stories. Join us today in revealing the untold stories within a business leader's success. Enjoy as we uncover the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Whose Story Is It? And today we are talking to someone in the sunny state of Arizona. I'm a big fan because I used to live there. So, let's get this started. So, give us a little introduction.
All right. So I am like you, where I didn't grow up in the heat, but now I really like it. I kind of crave it. People are like, well, how can you do that? Like all those 100,
Yeah.
degree days, like it's finally dipping below 100, and I'm like, oh, this is cold in the morning. Like, what's
How
going
many
on?
days? How many days have you had 100 over there this year?
We had a lot. We set the record
Yeah, I
this year.
know.
There were
I
a
saw that.
lot. Yeah, I don't know. I don't actually watch the news too often, so I try to
Sure.
check out of that. I just know it was really hot, and
Yeah.
you just stay out of the sun in the afternoon. But we finally turned here, in mid towards the end of October.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Start to get some cool evenings, really, which really helps, right?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it is. I mean, yeah, growing up in Chicago and spent a lot of time in Ohio, I didn't know any different. I didn't realize you can live somewhere where the sun is out almost every day.
Yeah, exactly. Almost every day. Yeah. Are you a Cleveland Browns fan?
I am not.
Yeah.
No, I have I have kept my Chicago roots for most of the pro
Oh, you're a
teams.
Bears fan. Good for you.
Uh, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. How about
That's,
you? Where?
I'm a big Steelers fan. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm a Steelers
Well,
fan my
that's
entire
been
life.
my second team for a long time.
Oh, that's good.
Because yeah, Roethlisberger went to went
Yeah,
to
went to
the same
Miami of Iowa.
college as
Yeah,
me. So
exactly.
yeah, so I
Oh,
followed
that's
them,
right. You went
and
to Miami of Iowa, didn't you? Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Yeah, good for
and
you.
it was pretty cool watching him
Was
in
he?
college.
Did he play when you were there?
He was there right after I graduated, but I had a younger brother who was still there, so I'd seen a lot of the games.
Oh,
And yeah, I always say, like, as a Steelers fan, you might appreciate this or not, but what was the most amazing thing in college is that if it was fourth down and it was like anywhere, between the 40s,
oh.
um, they they would just line up and run a play, and then maybe 50% of the time he would just take two steps back and he'd become a punter. And he was a great
Really?
punter. He would punt with his left leg, and he was
I
a
did not know
great
that.
punter, and it always blew me away. I'm like, why do they not take advantage of this here in the NFL? Like what a
That's
secret weapon
funny.
you have there.
Yeah, that's great. I never knew that. I never knew that at all. So here's the only question I ask every single guest, and that is, how did you make your first dollar that wasn't from a relative?
First dollar was probably from selling baseball cards. I did a lot of that, but I definitely lost way more money than
Sure.
than
Well,
made in that. But my first
yeah.
real job was actually at a Chicago pizza place, Lou Malnati's. It's like one of the staple places, and I worked in carry out and had to flip the big pan pizzas out of the pan,
Oh,
and
sure.
I love that job. That was so much fun.
That's cool. That's cool. How old were you when you were selling
I was
baseball cards?
I probably was 10, 11, 12.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. It's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I remember actually one of my teachers had developed like the code for baseball cards. Like he knew the sequence of them, and some of the packs you would get them, and you could see who the last card was in the
When
pack.
he knew who all
And
of oh really?
yeah, and he did the sequence. So he taught us all, like, if you go and you look in the store and you can see where it is, you'd know what was in that pack. Yeah,
That's awesome.
things I learned at school.
Yeah, exactly. There's you go. There you go. That's what you learn at school right there. That's the important stuff right there. Oh, that's awesome. What is a part of your, like, if you took the 10 year to say 18 years old, what was a part of that that you wished you could change?
Ooh. Um, I I think recognizing that school didn't matter that much. Uh,
Don't say
which is
that too
weird to
loud.
say that now that I have kids that are like in
Exactly.
that range. But I wasn't like super stressed out. I was one of those who could like kind of, I don't know, could get a decent grade without like, it was always like
Yeah.
kind of, I would make the decision how much effort do I want to put in for the grade.
Sure.
um, but I think looking back at it, those years, I wish I would have had more of a lens of what kind of career or like more of like the business ownership, entrepreneurship mindset at that
Hmm.
point. Like I think when I in the era I grew up, like that term wasn't even like in existence. So it was all about like, oh, the
Yeah.
next thing you do is college.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have taken advantage of that a little bit more. But no, yeah. Now no complaints.
Yeah. No, yeah. Exactly. No, it turned out okay. Um, would you would you like to be famous?
Um no, and I can tell you that like with certainty.
That's great. That's great. I mean,
With certain. How about
part of
you?
it is just the quickness of the response tells you like, no, actually,
No,
not at all.
no, no. Yeah, and I have a story behind that. But how about you? I mean,
I don't think I would. I would say I would not want to be famous like any kind of movie star. That is not interesting at all to me. Like zero interest in something like that. But like if you could be famous in your like an industry or a niche where everyone in the niche knew you, that interests me because that's kind of cool because you could meet really interesting people that way.
yeah,
But I would not want to be a famous athlete or a famous. That stuff is no
yeah,
thanks.
yeah. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah, my story of like my closest to is my first job out of college. I drove with my best friend. I still can't believe like they gave us this job, but we drove, which it was called the Eckridge Funhouse,
Wow.
and it was like, I mean, in the same vein as the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile,
Okay.
where we had this big cartoony truck. It was yellow with a roof, and there was a grill that pulled out of the side of it, and a Papa Shot that came out of the back. And but it got a lot of attention on the roads,
Sure.
and anywhere we stopped, it was hard. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
people would stop and want to talk to you and be like, "What is that?" And tell me about
Yeah.
it. And I recognized really early, I'm like, I do not like that. I do not want to be recognized. And the nice thing about that was like, you get far enough away from the vehicle, you just
Yeah.
kind of blend
Exactly.
in with the crowd after that. But that was the experience that I'm like, yeah, this is like as close to famous as I think I would ever want to get.
Want to be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there is some downfalls there. That's for sure. What do you think in your life today you feel most grateful about?
Family,
Family.
just
Yeah.
yeah, family and health. I mean, our family, we've had more than our fair share of like health scares and things, and but yeah, we're at a sweet spot right now with our family of just health wise. We have, both my wife's and my parents are pretty healthy for their age. Like it's just
Yeah.
we're recognizing we're at a pretty good spot.
What's the age of your? You have three kids, right?
Yeah, so our oldest just turned 17, and then we have a 12 and an 8-year-old.
Oh, okay. That's pretty 9 years
Yeah,
difference. Wow. It's
yeah,
big.
we got a spread. How about
Pretty
you?
spread.
You have kids?
No, no, no. We never. My wife and I never had kids. We decided we made a conscious decision. Couple through 2, 3, 4 years into our relationship, like
Yeah,
I was, we were talking about it, like it was like I do it if you do it, and she's like, "Oh, I'll do it if you want to do it." Like, well, then no one really wants to do it. Like,
yeah.
we're just doing it for the other person. Like,
That's smart of you. Yeah, you had some
yeah,
foresight.
yeah. So we didn't do it, and so it allowed us to have second home and do different stuff. But yeah, yeah, it was. That was a decision we made
Yeah.
early on in our relationship. What do you do for fun?
Um, well, so my answer to that is what I did for fun before kids
Oh, sure.
and what I do now. I remember
Yeah, I guess.
one of my friends was like, like when you have kids, take the top 10 things that that you like doing and be like, just hold on to one of them. Like just keep one of them. I mean, I am a big like sports fan of like playing and active and getting out and doing things, but I also like love like events. Like I just love like being around crowds and things like that. So
Yeah,
anytime that we can get out hiking, yeah, I don't get too often, but like mountain biking, I love.
yeah,
Like anything active, and then like I just love like events, which is great for Scottsdale. Kind of this time, it's like it is nonstop. It's just like event
yeah.
after
There's
event,
stuff every weekend, man.
and
Yeah,
something going on, which is really really cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
love.
How about you? What are your things?
You know, I do. I'm active. Yeah, I'm active like you. I'm very active and still work out and still bike and ride, play basketball and stuff. So I'm pretty active. My wife's a fitness trainer, and my wife's she's also a sommelier. So I mean, we're
Um,
pretty active. And I love I love that part of life, just being able to go out and ride my bike, or those kind of things are still fun to me. But I my job is fun. Like I love what I do. It's like I couldn't think of a better thing to do and get paid for it than what I do now.
yeah,
It just it's just fun. Like
yeah.
I
I'm
don't
that
dread
way
any
too.
part of my day.
Yeah, I love entrepreneurship. I love like new ideas and thinking through them. And yeah, I always say it's like to me that's the creative outlet. Like yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
love it. Yeah, I feel like I can turn any conversation into be like, oh, if you're going to do that as a business, what would you do? How would you approach
exactly.
that?
What if you could look back, say when you were 20? What are the things? What are the two most important, or maybe one or two most important things that have changed for you since you were 20?
um, man, I still feel like I'm 20. At least like my brain development.
I'm going to remind you, you are not 20.
I mean, I just think I'm like how much like I crave just like hanging out with like my friends
Oh,
and
sure.
like you kind of
Yeah.
like just more that spontaneous. I would say the biggest difference is just like the lack of ability to do spontaneous things. Um,
Sure.
like I recognize that in myself, and I have to like build that in. I have to be really proactive to be spontaneous.
Yeah.
But I really work to build that in my calendar and in my schedule to do those things. Um, but yeah, I would say that's kind of the biggest difference is yeah, like I've always like really valued kind of the freedom to do things and not
Oh,
like whenever I kind of gotten cornered into areas where like I felt like I had to do things, that was when like my instincts were always like, well, I'm going to quit or I'm going to start my own or I'm going to do my,
sure. Yeah.
like I would always kind of back out of that. So I feel like that's the biggest thing for me is giving that. And I feel like in a lot of ways, I still have a lot of that other than kind of the kid responsibilities. And
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, like those things. It, yeah, that's what I just keep craving of just going back to. I'm like, man, I just, I
Yeah.
just want to be able to have that freedom, and like, and I put a lot of value to that,
Yeah.
and
To that.
know that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will work really, really hard to put myself in a position to have that.
In the if you look at your business life, like you separate the two, which I know is kind of hard because you're running a company, but if you just look at business life, is there anything you wish you would change today in that part of your life?
Um, um, not really,
No.
and it kind of feels good to say that. Um,
It should. It should
I,
feel good.
I yeah, I mean, I'm at the age, in the late 40s here where I see a lot of like my friends not that
Oh,
happy
sure.
with where
Yeah,
they're at.
like bad relationship or.
yeah, a
Yeah.
relationship or a job, or feel like now they're
Yeah.
stuck and they can't
Hmm.
really make the change. I truly love what I'm doing, and not to say it's there's still stress, there's still problems, and there's still
Hmm.
things
Oh yeah.
that I wish things were better, but yeah, I mean, I love the challenge, and I love. For me, it really is about like the freedom and the flexibility of my schedule. Our company is really weird in that we're all remote,
Hmm.
um, and spread out around the country, and that actually suits kind of my personality better. We have a super strong culture, which is hard for some people to believe that aren't in it, to know that we are really connected, and we like our team like are always chatting and talking and connecting together,
Yeah.
and we're really tight even though we don't work in the same office
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
But it suits my personality where I can engage, but then I could also get kind of my personal time too. um, yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
If I could give you a crystal ball to tell the truth about yourself or your life or the future, what would you want to know?
um
You can only pick one of those things. Yourself, like, or your when I say your life, that's all the things in your life, or the future. Which would you like? I think I would want to choose X.
um I I think I would really just want to know that like kids are like healthy and happy.
Okay.
Like to me, that if I look out and be like, yeah, that to me feels more out of my control. Where I'm the
Yeah,
stuff
exactly.
that's in my control, like I'm okay with what's in my
Sure, sure,
control.
sure,
The
sure.
stuff that's like out of my control is
Yeah, yeah,
probably what I think about and worry about more.
yeah.
And yeah, that would be the thing for me. Is just yeah, making sure that
If
they're in a good spot, and independent, and and living the
Yep.
lives that they want.
Would you consider your greatest accomplishment in your business life? Not your life, because that's probably going to be your kids. But what's your greatest accomplishment in your business
For me, it
life? Yeah.
is yeah. It's that we're mission driven. Um, you talk to a lot of the younger generation, and people like people just want to know that their work matters. And I always say, like, as entrepreneurs, we care about that too, and I really care about that. Like,
Sure.
yes, there's a money motivator, but that's not my main one. It's really, are we making a positive impact? And to
Yep.
know that the mission of our company is like that is our driving force. That's what I'm most proud of. It's what motivates me. It's what brings our team together. And I always say that there's no loser when we win. When we
Yeah.
win, we're doing good. We're like we're helping, aligning with our mission, which I'm not allowed to. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that
Not
piece of
yet.
it yet. So I'll hold on.
Not yet. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. Oh, here's a complete 180-degree question. What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? Oh no, let me
Uh,
rephrase that.
yeah.
What's the worst day of your life thus far?
Um, so I can tell you the exact day. It was
Wow.
October
Okay.
16th,
Wow.
of 2010.
Wow.
And we had a daughter that was born, um, with listeria, like the food poisoning that you hear of.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
my wife ate something when she was pregnant, and daughter was born with listeria, and she was in the hospital, um, and we got the call saying she's coding and get back to the hospital. And we were pretty much living at the hospital. We were just happened to be
Sure.
home at that moment. And yeah, and that whole like rush to the hospital, getting in there, seeing like
Yeah.
it was like a movie, like where you just see like all these doctors and all the staff like
Yeah,
working. Um, yeah, yeah, that
that
day.
was it.
Yeah, that was it.
Because the fact you remember, well, I mean,
Yeah,
that day like that, you probably should remember. But uh, when I ask that question, most people don't say a day.
yeah,
Yeah, most
yeah,
people have to.
yeah, you know,
Not an easy one.
no.
Who's your best friend?
Brian Schock.
Okay, if
he,
I
he
call
was he
Brian
was my
right now.
college roommate, the guy who drove
Oh,
the
really?
Eckridge Funhouse with
Oh,
me
that's
around the
awesome.
country.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Okay, so if I call Brian right now and asked him what's the best thing about you, what would he tell me?
Um, Probably that I still just kind of care about doing like stupid, dumb stuff, and and knowing that we could pick up the, yeah, we can call each other, and it
Yeah,
is just like our conversations are just like we just dig into whatever dumb stuff that we were calling each other about, and not,
yeah.
and yeah, my wife will always be like, well, did you see, like, how are they doing, like, how's their kids, and I'm like, I don't know, we didn't talk about that.
Talk about that. I have no
um
idea.
yeah, yeah, I think just like, yeah, just
And
how
if I
much.
called him and said, "What's the worst trait?" What would he tell me?
um Ooh, he would probably, um that's a good question. It would probably be that I I have a tendency to disengage a lot. So, um yeah, so
Disengage. You what? Like
yeah, like
from a
like
situation?
yeah, I like my alone time.
Oh, okay,
So there'll be
okay.
times where I'll be like, I'll just go do my own thing, and sometimes not tell other people of what I'm doing. Especially like, I think back to like college years and things like that. So yeah, I would say I'm not great at communicating and making plans with other people that well.
Okay, okay. There you go. Well, at least you know it. If I was if let's just I'll rephrase that. If you and I were starting a business together, right? I said, hey, let's start this business XYZ. What would the one thing you would say? This is the most important thing we have to do.
To me, it's culture.
Okay.
It is, we have to have a culture and a mission to what we're doing. And if it's just about making money, then we're probably going to clash
Yeah.
on that aspect. How about you? Like, what would that be for you?
I would say knowing why you're solving whatever problem you're trying to solve. Like, why? What is the reason why you're doing that? Like, is it because you experienced it? Is it because your best friend? Is it because you just saw it, and thought that's not right? We should fix that. Like,
Yeah,
I think that's important to understand. Is where's the like? Why are you getting up and trying to solve this problem?
yeah,
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 I think
yeah,
that's the
yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah,
yeah. I gotta know why I'm getting up to do
and I want to
that.
have fun doing it too.
Absolutely, man. I'm totally 150% behind that. I always, I mean, I have a very focused piece of me that can stay focused for a period of time. But my best friends are people that make me laugh. Those are
Yeah,
my best friends.
yeah,
One of the reasons why I married my wife is because she makes me laugh. I mean, it's just that's my best friend. Jonathan makes me laugh. I mean,
yeah,
he's just a funny. He's not like a funny guy. He just tells funny stories, and so I just we've been in touch since like when I was a freshman in high school. So
yeah. That's
uh, you
cool.
know, and that's wise because he's a funny guy, and I enjoy being around him. So
Yeah.
yeah, I gotta laugh. It's critical in my life to spend some time laughing in my day.
So
Um,
what's your go to movie then? Are you a comedy person then?
see, I'm not much of a movie guy.
Oh,
Uh, I mean, there's planes, trains, and automobiles. One of those movies I always
Okay.
love. I've probably seen it 6 times. I would still laugh. All the Seinfeld episodes. I still laugh at those. I've seen them
Yeah.
20 times, every
Yep.
one of them.
Yeah.
I still laugh. I still laugh at some of those jokes. So yeah, there's some of that stuff. But I'm not
Yeah.
much of a like. I can't think of a movie in the last couple of years that I thought, oh, that was funny, right? So
Yeah.
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 Was there a mistake in your business life that you think you've learned the most from?
Um, yes. I think, I can do it from the employee side, like before I started in business. But it was also one of the learning lessons that kind of led me down the path is I remember I was a regional manager for a smaller company, but reporting directly to the owners. And we had made a decision on an individual to let them go. And I
Mm-hmm.
went in the meeting and I decided to not let him go and to give him more time. And I walked out of there, and that was probably like the most mad I had anyone at me of
Oh, at
just
you.
at me of
Yeah.
like we agreed on this and you called an audible, like in the middle of the meeting of that.
Exactly.
And and he was right. He was 100% right on it,
Sure.
even
Yeah.
though it felt horrible on there. And it was a really good lesson to me of like one, um, yeah, like one of just like that communication and agreement and follow through on that. And
Yeah.
then, but it wasn't my company too, like
Yeah.
who was I to like decide that we're going to keep paying the guy?
Yeah.
If the decision was made, let him go. So I always think back to that and it helps me guide of like when I'm working with our team and the things that I'm asking our team to do is, yeah, I want to recognize that and make sure that
Yeah.
their voice is heard. But
Yeah.
when we're in
Exactly.
agreement, we got to be in agreement. Like
Yeah.
let's do it
Exactly.
together.
Like you can't call an audible.
Yeah, yeah,
At least, I mean, you can, but you shouldn't.
yeah, yeah. And on the business ownership side, there's so many, so
Yeah.
many mistakes. But yeah, like I really do have the attitude of like you either win or you learn, and
Yeah.
yeah, every time, every mistake, it's like, all right, what did I do wrong? A lot of times it's just like putting people in the wrong position and
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
not supporting them in the way that they need. That's probably the
What
biggest
what is
mistakes.
what's the big surprise to you? Because you obviously had an employee work. When you're as an employee, and then you obviously own your company. What's been the surprise to you in the owning part of the company? Like, what's big? Like, give me one or two big surprises. You're like, I just didn't realize X, Y, Z, or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
probably the biggest one is if I look back in like the first 5 years of running a company, is big surprise is like how little like education or how little there is to actually teach someone how to run a business. I mean, you think about it, we're all making it up like when we
Yeah,
first start. There's like no
sure,
structure to it at all. And to me, I always point back to like my turning point in the company was when I found actually it wasn't that I found it, but I finally embraced the book Traction and the EOS system. Are you familiar with
sure,
EOS?
absolutely, absolutely, yeah,
That was the turning point. That was the first time like, oh wait, like to run a business, like there's actually like some structure
sure,
to do it. And here are like some really good tools to do that. But to me, like it blows me away how many businesses still to this day, like just start without like any of that knowledge and any of those like just like
yeah. No, it's
basics
true. Yeah, yeah,
that I'm like, man, why don't we teach that in school?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like
No,
those
you're
are things
absolutely
like,
right.
I mean, even in college level, like you just think of like, all like there's entrepreneurship programs and all they care about is like pitch competitions, like
Yeah,
teach them like how to actually run a business and do that.
yeah,
But it is not at all like a part of our education.
Yeah. No,
You
it's not
almost like
even.
have to like screw it up first and then find it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got my MBA, right? I mean, I all that stuff. I went through all that
Yeah, me
stuff.
too. Me
But
too. Yeah.
I mean, you don't learn how to operate. You don't learn that
No,
stuff. You learn, you learned
you
about,
do,
like, I always look back, like, what I learned. Well, I learned about spreadsheets. I learned like how to
yeah.
read, what cash
Yeah.
flow statements really mean. I mean, I learned some of that stuff, but
Yeah.
operating the business is not like,
I know.
there's
Yeah,
just
there's not the focus. Yeah, I feel like I look back at like the case studies and things when I was getting my MBA, and
sure,
it's always big companies or like
yeah,
looking at from like a middle manager view or CEO view.
sure,
And yeah, and the reality is there's a lot more just entrepreneurs, small business owners out there that
yeah, yeah,
we all just had to figure it out instead of like
yeah.
yeah, instead of learning like hey, there actually are some pretty similar tools that almost every business can use.
Yeah, there are. I mean, and actually, that's how I make a living, is helping people do that. I mean, literally,
Yeah,
just do that. Like, they're
yeah,
basics. I'm not like a rocket scientist. I'm just like, here's some basics, and
yeah.
it's always amazing. Like, how did you get this far? Like, you're 10 years old, or your company's been around for 7 years, and like, how did you get here? Like you were just either lucky or something's like, what
So,
is? Yeah, I mean, like,
and most
I've
are.
had,
It's either they're lucky or they're just. I'll just say in my case, I was afraid to quit.
yeah, yeah, just
Every
yeah,
reasonable person would have just closed it up and be like, "Oh, I tried," but I was too afraid to actually do that and
yeah,
admit failure, so I just kept going.
yeah.
Um, and I do believe like longevity is probably the biggest factor of success of it.
Yeah,
I really think
yeah,
if anyone sticks with it long enough, they're gonna figure it out. It's just a matter of
they will.
can they make it
Can
that
they make it
long?
that long? Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Can you
yeah,
really get there? That can you spend 3 years, 4 years, 5 years on
yeah, yeah,
that, and can you make the changes, pivot? Can you do those
yeah.
things as needed? When needed. So,
Right.
well, that's a good time right here. Give us the real story, Kevin. Tell us who the heck you are and what you're doing and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my name's Kevin Stoller. I started a business back in 2009 that is K12 and it's spelled weird, KAY dash 12 spelled out, TWELVE. And when we started the business, we just thought we were selling stuff. And then about 5 years into it, we recognized. Yeah, I still remember the story where I walked into an elementary school with a principal that I really liked, and I just felt a buzz coming from one wing of the school, and I kept asking, I'm like, what is going on over there? And he just kind of like smirked and he's like, come on, just follow me. You got to see it. And I walked into in this fourth grade classroom and I saw a teacher utilizing this new furniture in a way that I didn't realize school could be anything but straight rows staring at
Oh,
the front of the
sure.
classroom with a teacher. And I watched this teacher just dance around the room, starting with like all the kids were in a U shape and they all were paying attention to her. And then she goes, all right, break. And they went in their groups of 3 or 4, started working together. She just kind of walked around and was asking questions. At one point, she'd be like, "Hey, everyone here, look what they're doing over here," and a kid would just literally impromptu present to the rest of the class.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
you'd see some kids kind of break away from their group because they were concentrating on something, and then by the end of the class, she's like, "All right, come back," and they came back into their huddle and kind of just did a recap on it. And I'm like, "Holy crap! Our furniture help do that."
Yeah.
Like what we sell matters. And the last 10 years we've been this mission driven company of how do we create better learning environments, and how do we make school actually more engaging and more impactful,
Yeah.
and that's been the last 10 years. It's been a fun ride since then.
And it's about the furniture.
I always say it's not about the furniture. It's actually about just what it does. Like the fact that they now have flexibility, that a teacher does not have to just be in a lecture style, and that you can have different ways and be able to
Yeah.
cater to students the way that they actually learn. Because the data shows not that many people. It's like 15% actually
They'll
learn
learn in
best
that format.
by
Yeah.
that lecture style.
Yeah.
Most are, like are a mix of more like hands-on, or they need to teach it to someone else, or
Yeah.
like they, yeah. So it's really gotten us really deep into the education conversation. And as somebody who didn't really care that much about school, I'm like, oh wow, like, yeah, I didn't care about it because I just had to go do it. It was more about being around my friends. And I'm like,
Sure.
we have an opportunity right now to actually improve the education system. And there's some really cool things happening in pockets around the country.
And do you sell to the school? Is that who
We
gives you the
do.
money?
We do, yeah. So, and our focus is really new construction and like major like
Okay.
renovations or
Yeah.
modernization projects. So, typically, we're working with the schools, and if it is new construction, we'll be like working in conjunction with the architect. Like
Yeah.
we always say like we're all like part of the design team together.
Yeah. Interesting. So your sales cycles are got to be super long.
Super long, 2 to 3 years is a
Yeah.
typical.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. 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 You have more patience than I, my friend. Um,
I always say it's this mix of like you have to act with urgency, but extreme patience on the results.
exactly. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
yeah, you're dealing with lots of layers there. And have you always has it changed? Has your business changed from 2010 than today? Is it how?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, when we started in 2010, we went to like the national conference of, it was at a it's called Ed Spaces now, but at the time it had a different name. But it's like you think it was a convention of like all the school furniture
Okay.
manufacturers,
Okay.
and I walked around there, and at the time it literally they all looked exactly the same.
Sure.
It was they were having discussions about like the legs of the chairs of like ours is like has a different whatever their gauge of steel was, or like the floor glide at the bottom doesn't mark up the wax on the floors as much.
Sure.
Like those were the selling points at the
Sure.
time. So we walked out of there like, oh, this is a commodity. Like the people are
Yeah.
just going to buy this online. So we actually went out and we built our company around being an e-commerce company of selling online. And then that store that I told you was where it really started turning. And we said, no, this is really about more of like a cultural change and changing the way that education is delivered.
Yeah.
And we have now shifted to the point where we've even turned off our e-commerce
Yeah.
functionality. We just have a lot of former educators on our team, and people are just really care and passionate
Yeah.
about this mission, that are trying to help this cultural change. Uh, and
Yeah. So
it's
you're
pretty
you're
cool.
just you're partnering with the probably manufacturers now, right? You're just
Correct. Yeah.
yeah,
So we
yeah,
work with the
all of them.
majority of like the
Yeah. Yeah.
major manufacturers,
Yeah.
and we work on behalf of the school to figure out what are the right products,
Yeah.
um, for what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So you're like the furniture consultant.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we do the installation, and we do some training and professional development for the staff as well. That's tied
Sure.
into it. But
That's cool.
yeah.
And so you have all your people just kind of all over the place, I'm sure, just because there's no reason to be together per se. Um, and you probably want to be elsewhere. Like you want to be a lot of places at the same time, right? You want to be in Florida at the same time you're in
Yeah.
Texas, at the same time you're in Kansas and Arizona, right? So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, our projects are always scattered around the country, so we
sure,
want to make sure that we have, our team is spread out around the country as well.
yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Totally makes a lot of sense. Is there something you would tell or your earlier Kevin that you wish you would have learned earlier in your career?
Yeah, I think it is just that patience that comes
Okay.
with it. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is the combination of the patience with the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Have a strong why,
Yeah.
of why you're doing it, and
Mm-hmm.
if it is just money, that's probably not a strong enough motivator, or at least for
Yeah.
me. I want
Most
to
of the
get
time, that's
fulfillment.
probably not.
Yeah, I want to know what we're doing is making an impact.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to know that every school we work on, that's going to be a foundation for that community for the next 30, 50 years. And
Yeah, it's going to be a long time.
yeah, and we can really have a big impact on that.
Yeah, that's totally right. Is the thing that you do on a daily, monthly basis has your motivation changed?
Yes, for sure. Especially as the team grows, because now it's, yes, the mission is still the forefront, but it's also, I want to make sure that everyone on my team is getting what they want out of life.
Yeah,
So it's very much the servant leadership mentality, and as the team grows, that gets harder and harder, because
no question.
yeah, it's to me, it's more people that I'm serving, and trying to make sure that, yeah, that they're getting what they want out of this,
Yeah,
because so that's the piece that changes for me, and then as we just keep getting more and more just really talented, good people, my role gets more specialized. So yeah, trying to let go and just focus on the bigger things. Yeah, which is what I want to be doing. So
yeah, exactly. No, they're
yeah,
totally right. Well, it has been a pleasure, Kevin. It's one, you have a really interesting company. I can't say that I've met too many people that do furniture for, it's the kind of the service piece, but yeah, it's a really interesting business, and obviously huge, positive effect on, generations, right? Our kids. That's, like I said, commend you for that. That's we need more people doing that for sure. And yeah, just it's been great to get to chat with you and spend some time with you today. And thanks for taking 45, 50 minutes out of your
yeah,
day. It's always nice for people to do that.
yeah.
So appreciate
Yeah,
that a lot.
anytime. Yeah, thanks for the invite and appreciate the conversation. And yeah, I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Whose Story Is It? We grow our audience mostly through friends sharing with friends. So please share this with a friend you care about. And of course, share it on your social media. We love that. Also, if you think listening to the podcast was entertaining and valuable, then please subscribe to next week's episode. So keep moving it forward and join us next time as we continue to uncover the extraordinary in the ordinary. Have an amazing day.